Welcome to Life Undiscovered, a biology talk show. Our talk show today has two separate segments with two different guests and hosts. This segment is called Behavior and Evolution. Today we are joined by Dr. Nico Timbergen, a pioneer in animal behavior. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I know you're a founding father of ethology, and I've always been fascinated by animals, the way they act, think, and even the little things cats do, which I've always loved observing. So let's start simple. What's the difference between innate and learned behaviors?
I love cats. Personally, in my life, I never owned one, but I did own owls, wasps, geese, and more. But anyways, back to your question. Innate behaviors are genetically hardwired. They can be performed without experience and show little variation, like a sea turtle hatchling moving towards the ocean. Learned behaviors, on the other hand, depend on experience and the environment, like a bird learning its song or a child learning how to walk.
You're known for your 4 questions, so let's use them to explain flight in birds. First, what's the contemporary proximate cause of flight?
So those would be immediate mechanisms: wing structure, feathers, muscle contractions, and neurological signals that allow the bird to fly.
And the contemporary ultimate cause?
Yes, so flight increases survival and reproductive success, meaning that birds can escape predators or find food sources or migrate efficiently.
And what about the historical causes?
So the historical proximate. Our early ancestors evolved feathers, lighter bones, modified limbs, and then historical ultimate. Over generations, natural selection favored certain traits that eventually produced to flight.
And speaking of movement, migration is a fascinating behavior. How do we know where animals go?
So this is tricky, but animals use proximate cues like landmarks, compass orientation. So like looking at the sun and looking at the stars, map orientation. But the ultimate reason that they do migrate is to improve survival, looking for better food, a better climate, and better places to breed.
Okay, very interesting. And let's shift to coevolution and arms races. Could you explain those concepts?
Of course, coevolution happens when two species shape one another's evolution. Sometimes it becomes evolutionary arms race, where prey evolve their defensive, predators evolve their counter defenses in response.
What are some key prey adaptations?
Yeah, so you could see like camouflage, mimicry, chemical defenses, warming, coloration, fast escapes, but the two main kinds is Müllerian mimicry, meaning multiple harmful species imitate each other, and then Bayesian mimicry, which is a harmless species imitates a harmful one.
Very interesting. Before we end, how do these behaviors tie into broader evolutionary ideas, such as natural selection, kin selection, genetic drift, sexual selection, and speciation?
Yeah, of course. Good question. So behavior affects reproduction, movement, and survival, of course, as we know. It influences who the mammal or animal might choose for their mate, migration, family cooperation, and which individuals will survive long enough to reproduce. Behavior can even contribute to new species forming or extinctions.
All right, those were some amazing insights. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Timbergen. It was amazing.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Timbergen, and welcome back to Life Uncovered, our biology talk show. This is our second segment called Ecosystems, Cycles, and Environmental Change. And we are here with our environmental scientist and author, Rachel Carson. Thank you for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope that can give you some valuable insight on ecosystems, their cycles, and the environmental changes. It's something that I enjoy a lot, and I find it really interesting and important to learn.
We are so happy to have you. Some of our listeners may know, but just so everyone knows your background, Rachel is a marine biologist, author, and environmental activist. To start us off today, let's begin with some biology basics. What are biogeochemical cycles?
We're talking about these different cycles. We're talking about the building blocks of our life, such as carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and water. These are all something that are continuously moving through our ecosystems. It's kind of similar to recycling your plastic. These elements are never leaving us. They're just constantly being reused in different parts of the environment. When I go to study a cycle, my first step is to find out where the nutrients are hanging around in the environment. These are going to be like our major reservoirs or pools. Then I like to see the natural activities that are happening, like photosynthesis, the type of rainfall, the weather, temperature. All of these are big factors. My next big step is looking about how humans are impacting it. Some things we don't even realize, like farming, have a lot bigger impacts. And then there's also things that we do realize are bad, like burning of fossil fuels. The main reason any of this matters is that life needs all of these nutrients to thrive. So if we're not able to understand the cycles, then we're not able to understand life.
Wow, very interesting. I really appreciate you breaking this down for me and our listeners. Could you elaborate more on nitrogen, or specifically, what is nitrogen fixation?
Yes, so nitrogen fixation is the process that turns the nitrogen gas in our atmosphere into a form like ammonia or a different type of nitrate that plants are able to use. There's these little bacteria that can be found in the soil or the plant roots, and these are the ones that help move this process along. And then without doing any of this, or without our bacteria helping in this, none of our plants would be able to grow.
And what would happen when nutrient levels get too high?
Happen where there's too many nutrients, and then we get algae blooms, which can really limit the amount of oxygen found in our water. We can also see something like bioaccumulation. This is where an individual organism has too many toxins, and then this can lead to a bigger issue of biomagnification, as this same problem happens, but it continues up our food chain.
Very interesting. Does this connect to coevolution plants and insects?
Yes, this is something we absolutely see between plants and insects. They are always co-evolving with each other. A big thing that we notice is if plants are changing a slight color or a shape, then a lot of times insects will adapt, and we will see different types of mouths that they're being born with, or just overall different behaviors to work better with these plants. And then by both of these things adapting, it can influence our entire population of our ecosystem. And it can also change the way that our nutrients are moving through our ecosystem. So it's important that both of them are working hand in hand together.
Wow, so everything is kind of in a constant state of change, including our environment. Speaking of our environment, we've also talked a lot in class about climate change and conservation, which are really big interests of mine. From your understanding, how do they tie into each other?
They tie them together in a huge way. Climate change is always affecting our nutrient cycles, and this can disrupt where our species are living in our ecosystems. And this as a whole hurts migration and can completely uproot the structure of the ecosystem. Conservation, on the other hand, relies on a very basic foundation of how evolution can improve or hurt one's survival. So we have to look at things like natural selection, genetic drifts, reproduction, and gene flow. All of these are big factors and determinants of whether or not a species is able to survive in fast-moving environmental changes.
Yes, I completely agree. Climate change has such an impact on our Earth's ecosystem. I've always been so interested in finding ways that we can individually combat climate change, and having you on our show today has really furthered that interest for me. As we wrap up, do you have any final messages for our audience?
Yeah, so I love biology so much, and I find it fascinating because everything is all interconnected. And if we're able to understand how these connections work on this level, then we are able to put a step forward on protecting our Earth and the life that lives on it.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We really appreciate your insight. And thank you all so much for listening.